Today we are covering a deadly trend. We're going to talk about a really toxic topic that has been blowing up on TikTok. This trend has definitely been very toxic into every age group of women. I found videos on YouTube that have already made really good points, and I didn't feel the need to put out continued information. I felt that if these women had already explained it very well, I felt like I am going to give them fully credit on it. I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Salem Tovar. She is a YouTuber. She touches up on a lot of TikTok topics and trends. Whether you are thinking about going under the knife or not, I think this video will give you some sort of ease to your next decision. So without a further ado, I will go ahead and pass this over to Salem and we'll just get started.
Do you think that you are promoting unattainable standards of beauty in any way?
No, I don't, because I think we get up, we do the work, we work out. This is it, no breast implants, no surgery.
Do you ever get weirded out or freaked out when people get plastic surgery to look like you?
There's people that are dying.
We need to talk. Well, I think I have found literally the most dangerous and deadliest and toxic trend yet on TikTok. How did we go from people doing this
Small potatoes, small potatoes, small potatoes.
to this?
Liquid buildup is going to feel like your body is on fire. You're constantly going to be waking up with that pain.
BBL actually has the highest death rate. And there were actually Instagram models that passed away because of getting too much plastic surgeries done.
So the pain is probably equivalent to like not working out for a long time.
So the way she explained it is not my experience at all. Clearly her pain level was somewhat mild. I was about to die. It's literally like getting dropped off in the jungle and getting your ass whipped by 20 gorillas.
If you don't really know what I'm talking about, then you're probably not on the plastic surgery side of TikTok. But what you probably have seen is the memes of the BBL effect. I'm not gonna lie, I laughed along with some of the videos too, but here is where the problem occurs. You know the saying, behind every joke, there is a little bit of truth in it. This whole BBL effect meme stuff was obviously inspired by the fact that the BBL plastic surgery procedure has become super duper popular. And for those of you who don't know what a BBL is, it's basically this plastic surgery that sucks out all your fat from everywhere and injects it into your butt and hips so that your body can go from this to this. The truth behind the joke gets embedded into our unconscious cognitive part of our brain, which is just in charge of processing the perception, memory, learning, thought, and language without being aware of it. You are learning without knowing you are learning. In other words, the BBL trend is a lot more deeper than you think. First, I just want to say that this video is not meant to bash people who are planning to have plastic surgery, who have had plastic surgery, or are pro plastic surgery. This video is meant to be an open discussion on the BBL effect, the historical context behind it, and the negative sides of plastic surgery. I also recommend to watch these YouTubers and what they have to say on this topic as well for more information. They are literally my faves and I took a lot of inspiration from their topics in this video, so please go support them. Your body isn't good enough. The standards for how women should look like seems like it changes every single week. So it's kind of hard to really originate where this trend came from. But what we can do is look at history to see where did this shift happen? How did this become the ideal body for modern times for women? Beauty standards have always been around us. The first time we see an ideal body is in ancient Egypt, the dates being 1292 1069 BC. And around this time, the ideal body beauty standard for females was to be tall and slender, to have narrow shoulders, a high waist, and a symmetrical face. In ancient Greece, the standard was to be plump and pale, full-bodied. In the Han Dynasty, the ideal body type was to have extremely pale skin, a smaller frame, so smaller waist, small feet. In the 1400s through 1700s, the standard was to be very ample-bodied, having a round stomach and full hips. In 1837 to 1901, in Victorian England, the beauty standard was actually still to be plump and full-figured. However, around this time, fashion statements were a huge part of the ideal woman beauty. This is where we start to see really tight fashion corsets to create a dramatic hourglass figure. This is where we see a pretty drastic change when it comes to beauty standards for female beauty. We are now coming up to the Roaring 20s, and around this time, the ideal female body was to be flat-chested, no waist, to be fairly thin and even boyish, and extremely short hair. Then we kind of revert back to the full-figuredness, which is the golden age of Hollywood. Around the 1930s and 50s, women who were curvy and a cinched waist, such as the Marilyn Monroe body type, was considered ideal. And then the swinging 60s went back to the boyish, slender figure. And this type of body type actually stayed around until the 2000s, except it took it in a more extreme way. Around this time, size 0 was basically the ideal size for every woman. This is where we see women like Paris Hilton, Lindsay Lohan. This is also the era of the rise of the supermodel, who were ideally this body type. Now, if y'all were paying attention, I think you could really pick out a certain pattern in these beauty standards. And one can only guess that after these few years of going from big to small to small to big to big to small, we would have an era where we have a mix of everything. And we do. The modern ideal body type is to be slim, thick, big hips, and a big butt, but you have to have a thigh gap and no stomach and thin arms. It's kind of like someone went back in time and said, I like these attributes and characteristics in this era and this era, and then they put it all together to make this jumbled up mess. You have to be, you can't be too big, but you also can't be too small. This type of body type was popularized through social media, specifically the Kardashians. This body type is notoriously known to only be achieved mostly through plastic surgery, rigorous diets, rigorous exercising, but mostly plastic surgery, specifically the BBL, which the Kardashians deny ever having. Sure, Jan. This body type is very rare to be born with. Of course, the BBL was meant to almost imitate Black and Latina body features, but without the black and brown. Getting plastic surgery in order to obtain this type of body has become glamorized by influencers and celebrities and Instagram models. However, this body type wasn't always meant to be that. A really good point brought up by Adela Afandi was that this trend started out as something healthy. People were tired of seeing the super thin body type being in because it was becoming toxic. So the body positivity movement started focusing on bigger, ample? We'll go with ample bodies, and for a while actually started off pretty good. However, a point that Adela brings up is that a lot of these things start off healthy and then just kind of end up being toxic, kind of like a never-ending loop of a toxic cycle. And the reasoning behind this is it becomes toxic when people start to push boundaries and basically go to drastic lengths to achieve whatever body type is in trend at the time. Look, I'm not anti-plastic surgery, but let's be honest, there has now become a glamorized filter over the horrid truth of this BBL trend. We correlate this body type with success, with luxury, with perfection, when the truth is, the very women who helped popularize this type of body type, girl, they're not even happy with themselves, which is honestly really sad. And the promoting of this body type and lifestyle isn't only in surgeries, which is something that I feel like no one really talks about. It's one of the reasons why there is such a huge market now for Photoshop. Literally every influencer photoshops their bodies to the point where we don't even know what is fake and what's real. And what I mean by that is some of these Photoshop jobs be making the people that we follow look almost unrecognizable. And the usage of Photoshop in influencer and celebrity lives have become such a necessity that they freak out if they don't have their photos photoshopped. Literally, do y'all remember the Khloe Kardashian controversy? Sis literally freaked out that there was a picture of her on the internet, by the way, that I can't show because she copyrighted it because she said that that's not her and that what she actually looks like is this.
On Wednesday night, Khloe took to Instagram to really stick it to the haters and naysayers. She posted a video of herself in a bathroom wearing nothing but underpants while listening to Ariana Grande's song Point of View. P.S. Yes, I did a live to show you all this isn't photoshopped.
Which, by the way, videos can also be photoshopped. It's not just images. There is a lot of videos out there where women cinch in their waist with a video editing software, and a lot of girls on TikTok use it for when they show off their outfits or whatever. I think it's pretty bizarre how far Photoshop has gotten to the point where we can now manipulate just everyday videos of us simply trying on outfits. We become reliant as a society on always looking perfect 24/7, which is really what this body type tells me. It's about looking perfect at every angle, not having a single flaw. You have to be photo ready 24/7. We are feeding more into the fake dystopian version of our bodies than our natural bodies. We now have clothing brands that are for this specific body type it's so hard to achieve. I mean, the perfect example I can bring up is Fashion Nova. The models on their website and Instagram, girl, I cannot. They don't look real. It's almost concerning. And I can say that because Fashion Nova has literally gone into controversies for posting people who are literally not real. Like, their models Photoshop themselves so much to the point where I swear they're not people anymore. They're just IMVU characters. And then when women with real untouched bodies buy their outfits or their clothing, they're severely disappointed because their clothing isn't meant for women who have normal bodies. They're meant for women who have the perfect Instagram body. And that $40 pair of jeans doesn't come with the BBL. Of course, you're gonna be disappointed when you try it on and you don't look like the models on their website. Women's bodies themselves, the actual thing, is the trend. And we are expected to be ever changing whenever a trend is in. If next week the trend is to be skinny, we're expected to do whatever it takes to get there. If by a month from now it's back to the golden age of Hollywood beauty, we're expected to mold our bodies, immediately to get to that beauty standard. And it's so dangerous, it's tiring, it's exhausting, and it's emotionally burdening. And the fact that there is now young women who are 17, 16, saving up their money to go out of the country so that on their birthday they can get a BBL is so upsetting to me. And I'm tired of people claiming it as it being empowering, when in reality it's just the fact that we as women are always being put under this pressure cooker of needing to change how we look. These are teenage girls. They're not even fully developed yet, and they already want to change how they look because they know that after their puberty, they're not gonna have a glow up. You know, the glow up. Glow up culture tells us that we have to be beautiful and that we have a time limit as to when to achieve that beauty. Glowing up is another phrase for going through puberty, but the glow up process focuses on the improvement of physical appearance, overall attractiveness, and individual style. And honestly, that's also why we don't see a lot of preteens anymore, because media has made its way so deep inside our brains that preteen girls aren't allowed to go through puberty. They're not allowed to be cute anymore. They have to go straight to being attractive, which is really disturbing. You don't see them going through the phase of figuring themselves out because they're too busy trying to figure out how they're going to come out being the most attractive because they're terrified of looking their age. And a big part of that is the Kardashian effect and glow up culture. And I cannot believe that there are plastic surgeons on TikTok duetting these preteens and young women who are talking about the things that they don't like on their body, duetting them, making it seem like it's funny, like, when you're 18, come see me, I can take care of that for you. Or telling them, if you want to do that, then you should get this procedure. I cannot believe how normal it's become to have plastic surgeons on TikTok. And honestly, that includes the ones that y'all think are chill. The main focus is always on the end goal, the glow up, the end goal of the BBL. We forget how painful and draining it is to get there. And that's not me saying it. That's the women who are part of these BBL trends coming out with their stories of how horrible the experience was.
I just wanted to say that just because doctors can do it so seamlessly and so naturally does not mean that your body will accept it inside. I just wish if I knew that before, I would have just loved myself.
It's just so messy, and I feel like there needs to be a lot more education, not only on the procedure, but the dangers in general. So I went ahead and invited someone special. You guys know her already, but for those of you who don't know, she's actually a RN BSN. Come on, SAT words. Let's get into it.
My name is Penny Tovar. I'm a bachelor's registered nurse, and Salem invited me today to share with y'all some evidence-based information as well as scholarly articles that are peer-reviewed from journals about BBLs and the consequences. So I'm actually really excited to dive into this. So a BBL stands for Brazilian butt lift, and funny enough, it's actually not a butt lift. Liposuction is used to extract fat from the desired areas of the person, right? Whether it be arms, legs, stomach, and then that fat is then injected into the desired area, which in this procedure is the booty. And did you know, in the last 5 years, the BBL is the fastest growing plastic surgery procedure, and it has more than doubled in just 5 years. Despite the fact that it is so insanely popular, and by the way, there are no signs of it slowing down, it is literally the plastic surgery procedure with the highest mortality rate. There was a study that found that 1 in 3,000 women die after this procedure. So just like we're discussing, it's dangerous, but why do so many people do it, right? Why is it so popular? And the number one reason is that a lot of people see it as a natural alternative to like silicone or implants, which makes sense, right? Why not use my own fat as opposed to a foreign substance? Because there is less of a chance of rejection. But the biggest reason why it is deadly is because of the fat. The fat that is being injected into the buttocks, right? It has to be suprafascial. Okay, it has to be injected suprafascially. So there's something called the fascia, which is a connective tissue that wraps around muscles and nerves and blood vessels. The fat is actually supposed to be above the salad roll, above the fascia. But if they go underneath, they're penetrating that fascia, going under the muscle and having access to the nerves and those blood vessels. So the gluteal veins are attached and they're branching off of the iliac vein, which goes directly into the vena cava, which goes directly into your heart. So if they go below the fascia, inject the fat, you are literally one-way trip to the heart and or to the lungs, the fat embolism. which is you die. And that is why it is deadly. And there was actually a clinic in Miami where just in one clinic alone, 13 people died from a BBL. So a lot of these things were happening in these places, and people started putting one and one together, and they're like, okay, this is why are so many people dying from this compared to other procedures. There was actually an article making the argument that it's like, of course, going to someone who is trained, obviously, actually credentialed to do this. But then there was an argument that was saying, what if the procedure itself is flawed? I will say, however, it has gotten slightly safer, but the only reason it has gotten safer was because so many people started dying. There was actually autopsies performed on those people that died, so they were able to see what was going wrong. And that's the only reason it has gone a little bit safer. But even then, it still has a very high mortality rate. And then the autopsies, they were finding the fat emboli in the lungs and the heart. From my research that I found in the articles I found, they were saying actually one of the biggest factors was actually the fact that these women were put under general anesthesia as opposed to local, right? So general anesthesia is when you get knocked out. They're saying it's actually better to go with local anesthesia, so you'd be awake, right? Now, a lot of people don't like the thought of that, of being awake during the procedure, but if you're awake, you can actually feel a little more and alert the surgeon like, whoa, that's really deep, and that could actually alert them to, hey, you are passing the fascia. Not only that, when they're asleep and relaxed, the blood vessels are more dilated and easier to puncture. The majority of procedures are done in the United States. Worldwide, there's something going on in this country that is not normal. And I think it's really important for people to acknowledge that and think about it and analyze that. And no issue is black and white. There is no right or wrong answer. Humans are so complex and issues can be so dynamic and multifaceted. So it's not, this is wrong, this is good. It's more really delving deep into all those facets of this issue and this topic where you talk about truly the pros and cons of it. And I think that's really, really important for people to talk about before they can potentially lose their life.
There's a lady named and she went to Colombia and did some work on her body, and unfortunately she passed away because of doing too much work.
I got my first massage 4 days after my BBL, and I almost fainted from the pain, to be honest.
Hey yo, plastic surgery check.
I'm having trouble with men right now. Maybe if I had a huge butt, I'd get even bigger love.
Hello there. Brazilian doctor Ivo Pitongi, the person who popularized this surgery, believed that beauty was a human right, but he himself said that its pursuit can be a very troubling process. Pitongi would say the most important thing you can do is to have a good ego, and then you don't need an operation. Basically saying if you already love yourself, you don't need to get plastic surgery. But let's be honest, y'all. There is a money side to this. My mans didn't get a private island and become super rich by convincing people to love themselves. I've said this many times before in videos, but I guess I'll just repeat myself. The world tells you that there's something wrong with you. They label it as a problem, and then they make a product that can solve your problem. The BBL trend profits off of women's insecurities with their body. Aesthetic surgery is something that no one really gives any attention to, but race and plastic surgery go hand in hand. Whether to erase your ethnic features and to make you look more socially acceptable by making yourself look more Eurocentric, to making your body look more black and Latinx. Fetishization of black women's bottoms goes all the way back to slavery and colonialism, which can be traced back to 1810, where an African woman was brought to London by a British doctor and exhibited in Piccadilly and then around the country as the Hottentot Venus. Crowds would pay to examine her body, and in particular, her butt. It was considered a commodity. This pattern of picking and choosing what to like on a ethnic person's body is not new, and it still happens to this day. People fetishize Asian eyes. I mean, we got Oliver London, or whatever the hell his name is, over here saying that he's Korean. The culture of cosmetic surgery emerged from the country's history of eugenics. Dr. Renato Kiel, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but honestly don't care because he's a horrible person. He was the founder of the Eugenic Society of Sao Paulo in 1918. He expressed in his support for surgery in his book, The Cure for Ugliness. His aim was simple, and I quote, to perfect Brazil's population through the extinction of the black and the rainforest dwelling races. Beautification for him was intertwined with whiteness. It always leads back to cherry-picking POC features. The BBL trend is grabbing a black woman's body and a Latinx woman's body, picking it apart, repackaging it, and then selling it to millions of people. And I'm so tired of people acting as if plastic surgery has nothing to do with race. We have whole ass people crying on TikTok for being grateful that their nose no longer looks too ethnic. What I'm about to say might get me canceled, but oh well. The historical context, the reasoning as to why people do it, the trends, the picking and choosing, plastic surgery just isn't empowering, especially for young women who are barely trying to figure themselves out. YouTuber Jordan Teresa made a very powerful video on this topic. She talks about how beauty standards are rooted in capitalism, racism, and many other things. And also how plastic surgery teaches you that you can buy your way to success and beauty. It's not something you need to get done. Your body will be more accepted. You'll have more opportunities. You can get more likes, which in a way, this is where the argument for plastic surgery gets really tricky, because one can argue that it is empowering because you are benefiting off of the patriarchy. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people want that lifestyle. However, what happens when this body type isn't the trend anymore? I think the argument of I do it for myself is one that's super redundant at this point. How many more years is this cycle going to keep going on, where we're told that something's wrong with us and that we have to fix it? Women smeared arsenic on their faces to smooth fine lines. During the Victorian era, dressmakers mixed arsenic with copper to create vibrant emerald green, which was on trend at the time. And women who wore green died horrible deaths, vomiting green until they perished. How do we win in a society that labels natural women ugly? But then when a woman tries to fix it through plastic surgery, she's seen as fake. It's like we just can't win. So instead, we turn the phrase fake into empowering. Using words like that deflects questions and shut down the conversation about cosmetic work altogether, because it breaks the illusion of the ultimate glow up. Insecurity itself is not profitable. It's the empowering part that is. In an age where ads are carefully curated to target our insecurities, it's hard to label the action of giving in as empowering. The more we embrace our natural selves, or at least acknowledge our natural selves, we can reverse this cycle of feeling always pressure to change every year. Women are expected to be beautiful. That is the default for women. The default for women is to be beautiful. But I really think that body neutrality is far more important than body positivity. The default should be that we exist, and that's good enough. We are more than our bodies. And the more that we come to self-acceptance, the more that we erase that stupid quote that has been tied to women for so many years. Beauty is pain. But it doesn't have to be.
Gave you some sort of message and guidance to your next decision making. If you are still having trouble with making a decision whether you want to proceed with your cosmetic decision, that is completely up to you and well respected here in this platform. And if you want and need assistance, whether it's both needing a physical change in your life or a mental change in your life. And if it's in your best interest to change something about you, I think the only thing that women needs to change is mindset. Mindset plays a huge role into decision making. Whether you are still having trouble with self-love, self-esteem, all that comes in play with how you feel about yourself. And that's why these women go through extremes, trying to change physical attributes to themselves. That leads to just a physical change and not the mental change. I want to continue bringing awareness that it is possible to change here by building a routine for yourself. Whether you are going through this decision making, I suggest it's in your best interest to go ahead and fill out the form below. And I promise you 100% that you will feel so much better with your next decision, whether you are going under the knife or above the knife. And remember, ladies, stay beautiful, click down below, and I'll talk to you soon.